We're back on Revive Life and our show on bullying. We've just come out of the kitchen and we were making various kinds of beverages for personal training, and we just want to clarify that those beverages are for our adults, and the electrolyte beverage, though, is great for kids. So, you know, don't be afraid to take out your blenders and magic bullets. Our next guest, Dr. Luke, a clinical psychologist and personal trainer from revolution.com, is here to share his personal experience with bullying. So we really appreciate you coming on. You know, we were having a chat a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking about one of our shows coming up, and you really spoke up, and I love that about you, is that you're very open and honest, and you said, you know, I could say a few things about that topic. So tell the viewers a little bit about your experience about being bullied.
Sure. Well, my first experience of being bullied was probably in primary school. So that's like our first school in the UK when I was about 9. And I'd have my best friend there. Then if I had a day off sick, I'd come back and he didn't want to talk to me anymore. And he would like go off with another boy. And that would go on a couple of days and I would get the silent treatment. Then eventually I'd become friends again with my best friend. But kind of that was the first time I started to experience it on like a very subtle level. That I, you know, I couldn't trust that my friend, my best friend in the whole world, wouldn't be my friend if I took a day off sick. So I never took any days off sick.
And did you understand why that was the case? Was there any reason? No,
it was weird. I guess looking back at it now, it was jealousy, a weird thing. But yeah, that he wanted, this other boy wanted my best friend to be his friend and not talk with me and not hang out with me and not acknowledge me. But yeah, it was really uncomfortable.
Okay. Now, did that escalate throughout the years? That was your first
experience? Yeah, that was my first experience. Yeah. Then I went to secondary school. And, you know, older kids, a whole new environment. And, you know, I started to enjoy it first because it was kind of exciting. And then there was kind of subtle undertones of bullying going on. Not so much physical, but a lot more kind of psychological terrorism, as I call it.
Yeah, which is probably one of the worst situations.
Yeah, because if you have a black eye, you've kind of got proof that probably something happened to you. Yes. But with the kind of psychological terrorism that goes on, there's almost no way of proving it. And it would just essentially built up from there for me, and then progressively got worse when I was at secondary school. It got physical, but most of the time, 80% of the time, it was psychological. And yeah, it got really bad, and it got to a point that I had to leave my first secondary school, and had about 3 to 6 months off of school, essentially trying to be placed into a new school. Went to a new school, things started to go okay, but then I attracted this into my life again because I was the new kid. Everyone else had been at this school for 1.5 years, 2 years. They had established their cliques and their friendship, and I came along, and it was really hard to kind of penetrate that and to get in. So it was really, the first school was kind of, I thought it was bad, but the second school was like, it made me miserable every single day of my life.
Well, I think that's the significant thing, is that it can be a daily event. And when it becomes a daily event, then where can it go? In your case, it was very extreme.
Yeah. I mean, I would come home and my mum and dad would, they'd try and be supportive, but it wasn't what I needed at the time, essentially. And you know, I wasn't in the mindset, I wasn't in the place that, you know, I wanted to fight these kids back. Although looking back, there's a part of me that wishes I had just done that and kind of gone it over and done with. And you know, we tried to talk with the teachers, and it just really got worse and worse and worse. And it got crazy that sometimes I'd have these boys that would kind of terrorize me every day. And the teacher would actually bring one of these boys into a classroom and me and essentially say, Luke's come to me and told me that you've been terrorizing and bullying. So now they know that I've informed on them, that I've grassed them up, so to speak.
Okay.
And it just got worse. It was like, oh, man.
Of course, because after you leave the teacher.
Yeah, witness protection, yeah. Oh, man, it's like, it's the stupidest thing ever. Even as a kid, I thought, what a stupid strategy, you know? And it's like putting a big X on my head.
Okay. So you had years of experiencing this on a daily basis, and there did come a point in time where you really felt that there was no other solution. And you shared with us that you tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
So tell us, how did that come, how did you get to that point?
It was coming up to our GCSEs, testings in the UK, and that's kind of like the big exam before we leave secondary school and go into college. And I had so much stress at school. I'd go in every day. I was very rarely sick. I'd get there early. I would do all my homework. I was a pretty good student, and I somehow could compartmentalize that part in my head. But it got to a point, these exams were coming up, I'd have the bullying going on at school, I'd come home and not get the kind of support that I needed, and I'm like, I can't deal with this anymore, this is too much. So I was about 15 at the time, it was one January, and I hadn't contemplated doing this before, but I went into like my cupboard in my house, the medicine cupboard, and I found a bunch of paracetamol, and which is like Tylenol here, and pills for my dad's heart, and I just basically took them all. And I don't know if at the time, looking back, I wanted to kill myself, but I wanted something to change.
Yes.
I needed something to change, and nothing that I was doing was working at that point. So I took these tablets, and my mum and dad came home, and I told them what I did, and they're decent people, but their response to it wasn't fantastic. My dad said something akin to, you know, you should have done this at night if you want to kill yourself. You should have gone to the railway tracks when there's no family around and just did it. And I'm like, wow, thanks for the support. So I went to hospital, had my stomach pumped, no serious damage. But then actually, even though it was a really dark time, that was actually one of the moments that started to turn my life around.
Because with challenges, there's always a silver lining, and there's always a gift in that experience. Is that a part of why you went into what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, after that, I kind of went to what we called an adolescent unit, and it was with kids, with children, with young people who had challenges in life, whether that was eating disorders or abuse at school or at home. But it was the first time, and I became a resident. It was kind of like a hospital with a school, a converted house. And it was the first time in my life that I met people, young people that had challenges every day. And I was at this place, Simmons House, for a year, and it was like the most incredible year of my life. You know, if I could relive.
And that's where things started changing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we've got lots more to talk about, and we're going to be, so thank you, Dr. Luke, especially for sharing the personal nature of your story. We hope this inspires anyone to understand that there's always solutions, and what looks bleak today can change quite dramatically with the right support. So coming up next on The View, we're going to talk about solutions. So joining me again for our Revive Life Health View are David Milne from Kids Can and Dr. Luke. We were continuing with your personal story, and so for our viewers out there, if there is a parent watching, what would you suggest to that parent if their child comes to them and says, I'm in trouble, I'm being bullied, I'm not happy?
You know what, it's a good question, and I remember I went to school with this boy called Bob Obui, and he told me something his dad said to him one day, and it was like his dad said he basically wanted to make a little superhero from his children, so they were kind of invincible to criticism or negativity. They almost had that psychic shield up, and it always stuck with me. And I know I've talked with my girlfriend Raven, when we have kids, we want to kind of make them like little superheroes, so they've got this unbelievable kind of self-esteem. And I think it's up to the parents to really start to nurture their children's self-esteem, because I think the reason bullying or any kind of violence or negativity happens out there is through self-esteem. The bullies, because they've got low self-esteem, they choose the targets that have low self-esteem, they just display it in different ways. So really build up your children's self-esteem out there, so they're immune to this stuff.
I like that. Superheroes, that's a great idea.
It's difficult, and this is very controversial, what I'm probably going to say right now, but if this was Back to the Future and I had a DeLorean and I could go back, honestly, I would tell myself that just to fight.
Okay.
And it's controversial, but it's like, almost, and I saw this happen, that even if you lost, I knew I was never going to get killed at school, but you'd have a level of respect there, and those kids a lot of times were not bullied anymore, and certainly not to that same extent, you know. And yeah, you know, some people got the belief that, you know, children shouldn't have these devices until they get to a certain age. So I know now in the UK, it's different schools there, everyone has their cell phone, and people are getting violent texts in the middle of a class. I'm going to beat you up at lunchtime. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I think really monitoring, if you're going to give your kids phones, like really just have them for emergency purposes, and maybe block out most of the numbers so they can just call home or emergency service, and really monitor their use on the internet. Because if they're on these chat rooms or instant messenger, you know, with their friends, even playing video games now, you can go onto an Xbox Live, you're playing your game, and someone's shouting abuse to you because they have a headset, and some people see it as fun, but that's a form of bullying there as well. So really monitoring, getting involved in your kid's life,